Good morning, everybody. Somebody's out there. We'll try it again. Good morning, everybody. There we go. All right, it's 9 o'clock, and we're going to go ahead and get started. I know there's some of you still getting your rows and things, but just kind of, if you can, work your way over to the chairs. I'm going to begin with just a couple verses of Scripture. This is out of Colossians chapter 3, and it reads like this. Make allowance for each other's faults, and forgive anyone that offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony. And let the peace that comes from Christ rule in your hearts, for as members of one body, you are called to live in peace and always be thankful. This was words of advice from the Apostle Paul to the Colossians, and I think it's actually very good words for us today. What I want to key on is the very last part of what I just read, and it says, always be thankful. This past Thanksgiving, I was made mindful of the fact how in our country we recognize Thanksgiving as a holiday, but so many times what it becomes is it becomes Turkey Day. It becomes a day when we get together with family and we eat some good food. Nothing wrong with that. But as I thought about that and what Thanksgiving really started out being, I'm making an attempt to be thankful. I'm trying to be thankful for something each day. And I'm not going to tell you I'm succeeding in that perfectly. But I have noticed that if you try to be thankful, and when you wake up, if you just make it a point to be thankful for something, it seems like your day goes better. It seems like that when we count our blessings, that maybe some of those little things that get under our skin at times, they dim a little bit. They start to fade away. And so today, I am thankful for each one of you that have came out and made this possible for us again. We've been doing this for many years, and some of you have been coming here faithfully many, many, many years. Some of you may be here for the first time today, and for that, we say thank you. And so I'm thankful for you as customers. K&K had a really good year, 2016, and that is because of people like yourselves. So I want to welcome you all here. I hope you have an enjoyable day. There's a lot lined up today. We have a good schedule. I think there's going to be some things here that are going to be very beneficial for you and your jobs. And so I hope everybody just makes herself at home and enjoys the day. And we're privileged to have, this year we're privileged to have a large number of people from MyTech. We always have a good representation, but maybe a little bit larger this year. And some of them haven't been here for a good number of years, and it's good to have them back. But MyTech, LP, and more recently Sherman-Williams, those are people that K&K has partnered with, and it's been great. It's been really, really good. So I want to give recognition to those people, and if I miss somebody, please forgive me. It's just been good working with everybody here. Our employees here at K&K are, in my opinion, tops, the best in the world. And you guys feel free to talk to those people today. If you have questions later on today, you'll get a chance to see them in action. We're going to do some tours. And I think today we're going to try to have actually the lines running. So when you go through the tours, you'll actually be able to see them in production. But at this time, I want to introduce a guy that has been coming here for many years, and his title is Senior Vice President of Engineering with MyTech. And his name is Steve Kabler, and I'm going to have him come and just say a few words, and then he's going to introduce a gentleman, too, that we're really happy to have here. So let's give Steve a hand.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good morning. It's great to be back at K&K. As Nelson said, it's probably been, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years since I've been here, and I see some familiar faces. I've given a lot of engineering talks here on a variety of subjects, and I've always had a great time coming to this seminar. I look forward to today's presentations. I don't know about you, but it's good to get out of the office and sort of try and forget about your day-to-day issues and learn something new. I know every time I've attended this seminar, and I'm sure today will be the same thing, I've learned something new and valuable that I've been able to take away and use in my business. So today, I'm not giving an engineering presentation. Don't applaud for that, please. But I am here to introduce our next speaker. It is my distinct privilege to introduce Tom Minenti. I've had the pleasure of working with Tom for the last 30 years, since 1987. Many years he attended this seminar, and I think it's been a number of years since he's been here, but he knows very well K&K, and he appears to be happy to be back here and fond of his memories of this seminar. I don't know in the past, maybe he ate too much at some of these. I don't know. He may have some bad experiences. He'll have to share that with you. But he's had some good times here, and he's very fond of this business and this event. Tom is closing in on a 40-year career with MyTech. If you think about that, 40 years with one company is a long time. He's worked his way up from a district sales manager in this state and surrounding states up to chief executive officer of MyTech. And MyTech is a 5,000 employee worldwide company, and he has led us for a number of years through turbulent times in the economy, and it's been the largest growth period that MyTech has ever had. So we're privileged to have him at the leadership of our company. We are lucky today that he has brought his lovely wife, Kathy, who is a strong supporter of Tom. Obviously, he could not have been as successfully as he has been without strong support at home. And I haven't been on too many business trips with her, so it's a pleasure to have her with us. It's fun. She's an Indiana girl, by the way. Not this part of the state, but a different part of the state. So really, that's about all I wanted to say. Good. Again, I'm glad to be here. It's good to see everybody. And without further ado, I'd like to bring up our executive chairman, Mr. Tom Minenti.
Thank you, Steve. I had Steve in a panic this morning, told him I didn't remember I was speaking. But it was pretty easy when Nelson asked what would be the title of what you're going to talk about. I don't often title, what I talk about, but the first thing that came to my mind was guiding principles, and it's easy to speak on that, and I'll give you a little overview on that without taking up too much time or take you too far away from cinnamon rolls this morning. So it has been a number of years. Truth be told, it was pre-tornado. So it's that long ago, and had a dinner last night with the Knepp family and looked through some pictures in a book and was just amazed at the destruction, but more amazed at the reconstruction and what's taken place over the years. And there's weeping at night but joy in the morning, and it's just really great to see what's really taken place here in the last almost dozen years especially. So I'm happy to be here. I did have a taste of the cinnamon roll. I promised my wife she wouldn't be disappointed. She's not. The guys stopped bringing them back to St. Louis. I think that at first they thought, well, if we don't bring them back, then they'll come next year to the K&K Seminar. and then they just stopped. I think they just were not happy with me, but I'm glad to be here this time. I saw Nelson and Jerry and a lot of the folks from K&K at the BCMC show that was held this year. Where was the show? I can't remember. I'm sorry? In Knoxville, Tennessee. And I was only there for a short time. It was a period of time where I was literally doing day trips in a lot of places. And Nelson invited me to come for this. And I knew what was going to be transpiring this year. I announced on January 4th that this will be my last year, so my 40th year will be my last year at MyTech, and I always wanted to finish well. And I couldn't think of a better way, literally, to kick off the year. This is my first trip, business trip outside of St. Louis this year in my sort of my finishing well year, and I couldn't think of a better place to do it than here. And so when Nelson asked me, I had a little bit of a smile, maybe on my face, but certainly inside, knowing that I was going to be able to do this as one of the things that I really wanted to do in my finishing well year. I'm going to call it that instead of my final year, my finishing well year. So I was really happy to be able to do it, and certainly when Nelson asked if I would say a few words, my answer was certainly I'd be happy to do that if that's what you'd like. So be careful what you wish for. But guiding principles are very important. And my wife is from Indiana. I'm not from Indiana, although I was transplanted here in 1977 up in the northern part of the state. It's where I met my wife. And I was born and raised in New York City, New Jersey. Most of my accent is gone, except for when I'm around my sister who still lives in New Jersey, and then it comes right back. But when I came to Indiana in 1977, I saw a very different way of life than the very congested, busy, not very others-thinking environment that I grew up in. It was a little bit different back in New Jersey and New York, especially in the 50s and 60s. But coming to Indiana, I got to see another way of life. And it's where I found my Lord and Savior in 1978, and that foundation in terms of guiding principles has really been what has fed everything since. So I went through my career at MyTech. Steve said I was a district sales manager. I was based out of South Bend, Indiana, and started with 4 states around the Great Lakes, and then it became 5, then 6, and then at one point I had 19 states that I was responsible for. And especially during the recession, 1981 was a rough time. Those who remember that era was not a lot of fun. And in that time, I got to spend a lot of time thinking about my future and my vision for that. What did God have in store for me? What did I really aspire to? And I always wondered what it would be like to actually run a company, be in charge of the company. And I'd had a lot of responsibility over the years in charge of divisions and even subsidiaries, but I'd never really run the whole company where you could really begin to, I don't like to use the word impose, but certainly influence and impact your way of thinking in terms of leadership. So I got that opportunity in 2010. And on January 1st, 2011, I became the Chief Executive Officer of MyTech Worldwide. So here I had my opportunity. And we're owned by Berkshire Hathaway. Berkshire Hathaway is the company that Warren Buffett is the CEO of, so he is my boss. And he's a man of integrity. There's no question about that. And he has 3 criteria for leadership. He wants in leaders, he says, somebody who's really smart. He likes really smart people. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a 4-year or an 8-year degree or anything like that, but he just likes really smart people. The second thing he talks about are people who have a tremendous passion for what they do. So somebody who's really smart, really has tremendous passion. And then the third thing he says, and they need to have the highest level of integrity. And then he follows that by saying, and let me tell you this, there's no amount of number 1 and number 2 that can make up for a deficiency in the third one, integrity. So it doesn't matter how smart you are or how passionate you are, integrity is the most important thing. And I'm sure that's what informed for me the development of MyTech's core values. And I really had very little to do with it, although I participated in a process with 35 other people in our company, a cross-section of people, to identify MyTech's 7 core values. And that's what the guiding principles are based on, the 7 core values. And I'll just do them 1 through 7 and tell you what the guiding principle is behind each one of those. And number 1, as you would probably expect, is integrity. And I'm proud to say that of the 35 people that participated in this process, all 35 unanimously selected integrity as our number 1 core value. And integrity is simply doing the right thing, especially when nobody's looking. That's the guiding principle behind the core value of integrity. And core values are not action points, strategy. Core values are what we say are unchangeable. Those are the things that don't change, kind of like your DNA. They don't change because the market is down, the market is up, competition is a little heavier this year, lumber prices are skyrocket, whatever it may be. The core values never change. So number 1 is integrity. Number 2 is a passion for our customers. We have a passion for our customers at MyTech. We've always said our customers are number 1. Our customers are our lifeblood. But it goes beyond that. This is an example. This is a relationship that we have with a customer that's very special. We have a passion for our customers. And not every customer likes to be treated the same way. I mean, everybody wants to pay a fair price, be treated with respect, etc. But some allow you a little closer in than other customers. We like that. We like whenever we have that opportunity. In fact, we love it. So number 2 is a passion for our customers. Number 3 is teamwork. And it's probably a very overused term, but we think about it very seriously, because certainly you can get way more accomplished with people working together and not against each other than if you know, that even one person with a lot of passion and drive can never accomplish what more than one person can do. I remember a friend of mine in business from Texas. I quote him often, and he was speaking at an industry meeting one night, and he said, "I'd rather have 2 people working with me than 5 people working for me." And that really resonated with me. So teamwork is our number 3 core value. Our number 4 core value we call empowered purpose partners. So we call our employees at MyTech purpose partners because we all have a single purpose, and that's to lead our company based on our core values and pursue our vision. Our vision being for MyTech to be in every structure worldwide. It's a very lofty vision, but we're having a lot of fun pursuing it. So we all have a common purpose, and we're partners in doing that. We know we're employees. We understand some people call us teammates or associates. It doesn't really matter, but our number 4 core value is empowered purpose partners. And the key word there is empowerment, is empowered. And I always tell when I do these talks, I rarely do it on top of a jig table, by the way, but when I do talks like this to our subsidiaries, I tell them that empowered purpose partners begins with empowered leadership. How can I expect a purpose partner, an employee, to act in an empowered way, to make decisions on the spot? Sometimes, maybe not with immediate authority, but knowing it's the right thing to do, if we don't have leaders who feel that they are empowered themselves. It's very difficult to pass that on if you don't feel it yourself. We have a saying when we talk about power at MyTech in our people first culture and philosophy, that real power is the power that makes other people powerful. Real power is the power that makes other people powerful. So I believe in empowerment almost to the point of abdication. In other words, you get to the point where you're empowering your people so much, it almost feels like you're just giving it all to them and you're not doing anything. Some days I feel pretty good about that, actually. But people that really trust in this culture and these guiding principles are willing to speak up and say, I need help with that. And that's telling me maybe I've taken empowerment a little bit too far. But how do you know if you've empowered enough? Usually when you take it maybe a little bit too far and you can pull it back. So number 4 is empowered purpose partners. Number 5 is a commitment to excellence. And we talk about excellence in everything we do. It's in our financial dealings, in our quality of our products, in hiring, in even when we're separating ways with people for whatever reason. We have a commitment to excellence. We're not perfect. We are under construction, there's no question about it. I tell our folks that this is a journey, this is not a destination, but we have to always strive with commitment to excellence in mind. So commitment to excellence is something that becomes foundational. What's the excellent thing to be doing here? What's the excellent way to be developing this product, this software, this service? And that's the underlying principle behind our core value, number 5, a commitment to excellence. Number 6 is relationship driven. I've always been a relationship kind of person. I did a talk once for our technical group. So here's a bunch of tech reps, and the guy that came up through sales and sales management, I'm going to give him a talk, and the title of my talk was, I've never sold a thing in my life. And they didn't understand that. And I said, I've never sold a thing in my life. And I still believe that. I have never sold a thing in my life. Now, I've had a lot of great customers, buy a lot of stuff from our company and greatly appreciate it. But I've never had to go sell it. And it's really believing in what you do, your commitment to excellence, and having products and services that you're proud of, but it's about building relationships. Mark, James, and I were talking. Mark is a regional VP for us in sales, and Mark, James, and I were talking just this morning. He had emailed me a couple of weeks ago about a customer that we got back after having parted ways a number of years ago. And I used to talk as a sales manager to our sales folks about the 10-10-10 rule. The 10-10-10 rule is simple. It will take you about 10 months to get a customer. You think about it. You cold call, you develop you got to get a demo, they're evaluating, you're answering questions, you're taking them to other customers to see. So say 10 months to get a customer. You can lose a customer in less than 10 seconds, usually by saying a dumb thing or doing a dumb thing. And if you're fortunate, you might get that customer back in 10 years. 10, 10, 10. So Mark had emailed me about this particular customer, and he said, I remember your 10-10-10, and he said, we did this one in 10-10-8. So I was happy that he discounted it by 2 years and got that customer back in 8 years. So relationships are vital. Relationships in every direction, whether it's with peer-to-peer, whether it's from you to your supervisor, from your supervisor down, with customers, with vendors. I had an issue just this week where we're the customer and we didn't do the right thing with a vendor, and I was a little bit upset about that. And the easy thing is to say is, well, we're the customer. Well, it doesn't matter. We're relationship driven, and we live by our integrity, so it doesn't matter. Relationship driven, very important. Number 7, core value, is ownership minded. And it doesn't mean you have to actually own a piece of the rock. It's ownership minded. It's not ownership per se, it's ownership minded. My grandfather was an immigrant from Sicily and came to New York City, and I grew up in New York City in the Bronx, and he was a barber. And when I was a little kid, in the 50s, my father would bring me to the barber shop, and even a lot of times, my dad had a weekday off. He worked in the postal service, and my grandfather would be sweeping in front of the barber shop. And I always used to see my grandfather all by himself out there sweeping in front of his shop, whole street full of businesses. And later in life, I asked my dad that. And I asked him, why did Grandpa just always sweep in front of the barber shop? And he said, well, Grandpa had the philosophy that if he swept in front of his shop, it was a good example for the other shops on the street. If everybody swept in front of their shop, the whole street would be clean. And if every shop on every street in the city swept in front of their shop, the whole city would be clean. And that's an ownership mentality. And you don't have to own anything to have that mindedness to take whatever it is you're responsible for. It doesn't matter. You might not have anybody reporting to you. You're responsible for detailing on a set of plans. You're responsible for some operation in the plant, whatever it may be, loading a truck, dispatch, sales, it doesn't matter. If you have an ownership mentality to what you do, and if everybody does that, it's teamwork becomes almost the results of that, what I say is exponential. It means that 1 and 1 no longer just makes 2. So it's multiplied way out. So our core values are integrity, a passion for our customer, teamwork, empowered purpose partners, commitment to excellence, relationship-driven, and ownership-minded. And that's the DNA that I wanted to come back to the company. I had a short sabbatical in 2009 and come back to the company to take over and be able to share and impart that philosophy, and that be the culture and the leadership that we have at Mitek. So those are the guiding principles that we utilize, and I'm happy to be here in my finishing well year. It's really a blessing to be a part of this after so many years. I go back a long way, and I still remember the first time I came to K&K and not only had a tour of what K&K was doing here, but fresh start with Abe Knepp, and it really warmed my heart. And K&K will always have a special place in my heart and my family as well. So thank you very much. I appreciate your attention, and have a great time today.
My name is Merlin Wagler, sales rep here at K&K. If you guys are used to seeing Greg or Dave Schwartz, Jason, Alvy, or Eddie and what they do, I'm one of those. Glad you're here today. In 1970, Abe and Viola Knepp, Viola, raise your hand if you will. Hi, Viola. Started on this location a grocery store, feed mill, I guess a few other things. And in 1972, we're looking to expand the company and was considering building cabinets, is what I understand. And they was talking to someone who was building cabinets, and that fellow told him if I was going to do something or expand, I would begin to build roof trusses. Remember, this is 1972, and that was sort of a new concept. That's what Abe did, and Nelson told me yesterday that some of the first customers, or the first set of trusses that he tried to sell, he basically, I think Nelson used the word begged them to buy them. In 1980, 8 years later, the building that you're in here completely burned. The offices were over there, and I think there was an additional building or so, but this main building here burned. And in 2005, we had a tornado that took everything, flattened, and built back. And this past year, 2016, was in gross sales the largest year that K&K's ever had. So we have been blessed, to say the least. Just for I want to turn a corner here a little bit. We've gone from kind of inspirational information to a little more technical. We're going to talk about some of the products from K&K. But just so I have a feel for who's here today, if you've either used trusses, bought trusses from K&K or products from K&K for the last, over 20 years, can you raise your hand? Yeah, several of you, a lot of you actually. How about 10 years? 10 years or 10 to 20, yeah, okay. And some of you, this is the first time you've ever been here. This is all brand new. Not too many of you? Okay, that helps me out. All right, great. I'm not going to be like Tom. I do have notes. And I noticed not only did he know the guiding principles which he lived by, but he didn't have to have notes to remind him of what those were. I like that. I like that. I'm going to be referring to some things in your folder. So if you got that folder there in front of you, you might open that up, and we're going to be talking about some of the things that are in there. One of the handouts that you have in there is this, just a general overview of the products that K&K has available. And we're going to start the first one. You can have it out, and you can just look at it, but you can refer to it. But the first one we're going to talk about is roof trusses. It's the first thing that Abe, when he started in 1972, roof trusses were what he started with. They have been the primary business of K&K, and it looks to be in the future still the primary bread and butter, nuts and bolts part of K&K is roof trusses. Now we do a number of other things, but roof trusses are our primary business. We do, I'm going to try this. It works, yeah. We do a number of different types of roof trusses, custom to simple trusses. It's a pretty custom home you're seeing there. He's got hip trusses written there. We can match up to I-joists, different levels of floors. When you see the bottom corner of a room in the attic, we have LSL that matches the floor joist. We can also use that LSL. You'll see it in girders, and you guys have set some trusses that bear on the top cord bearing. We use LSL a lot. We have that capability. LP, which you're going to hear from today, and their engineered wood provides that. You can see there's some scissor trusses here. We can use trusses as truss headers over long spans. You probably use some of those if you've built especially pole barn type structures or larger commercial type projects. In your handouts, there is a paper that looks like this. It's truss terminology. And being in my little survey, most of you guys are familiar with trusses. I'm not going to bore you with this, but just a few things that you can see in there on that front page there. The front, it's just different terminology, and sometimes you'll hear us refer to different things on a truss. And I just know I had recently had somebody that was matching up to an existing structure, and we asked for the heel height. And he told me later, after the trusses were wrong, that he didn't know what the heel height was. He didn't know what I meant when I said heel. And he gave me a dimension, or I think he gave Wally a dimension, and it wasn't, and they didn't work. Well, like I said, when I asked him later, he said, well, I didn't know what you meant whenever you said heel. So anyway, the heel is down in the left-hand corner there. It's blown up over on the right-hand side. That is simply the dimension on the outside of the wall straight up. That is the heel, and that's an important dimension if you're, especially if you're matching up. One thing that's happened, the building code in conditioned area asks that you have R30 above the outside wall for insulation. If you're going to do that, that heel will need to be raised if you're going to blow in insulation. Excuse me, I don't want to cough in this. Nelson left if he has to mute me. But anyway, you can raise that up to about 10 inches. You put your 1-inch air baffle in there. It leaves you about 9 inches. We can get you R30 on blown insulation. That's something you can do over just your standard 1/4-inch butt cut. That's going to add about 8 to 10% of your cost. And in the areas that I work, that's a question that you guys that are used to working with me, I ask that all the time. And majority of the folks that want that energy efficiency. And so we can raise that heel up on the end and get you some added benefit there for your to get an R30 or to get the insulation value that you want. The span, the panel points, if you're looking across there, you got panel lengths, span, bottom chord, top chord, web. Obviously, you guys are familiar with that. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of those information. But on the back of this, there's different types of trusses. If you call in and say, I want a studio vault, or I want a vault or a tray, dual pitch truss, just a number of different options there that's available. Over here on this table, there's some more information on the different types of trusses that we can do. So you can avail yourself to those. I thought I would kind of try to address in each of these areas frequently asked questions that I get concerning these different areas. And one of them that I get, especially this time of the year, I got an existing home and says, how can I get some storage to put my, and I hear this a lot, I just want to store Christmas stuff, Christmas lights, Christmas trees up above my attic. Is there a way to do that now that I have just a standard truss up there? And honestly, it's really hard. And we can do it. It basically becomes, when you cut a truss, I always just say, you basically have stick framing up there. And so we're going to add some beams, add some joists, do some things in there to accommodate extra storage. It's a lot easier if you do it up front, and it doesn't cost you much. You can put nothing else. You can spread the web on the truss. We can put a little bit larger cord, usually a 2x6 on the bottom cord, for a pretty inexpensive amount of money, and you can get more. You can get some storage space above your garage, or for that matter, other areas of your house. But the garage is a nice place. You can put a pull down, or you can build a stair up there if you want to get something a little steeper. You can access it. But that's just one thing. Yes, sometimes you can do it after the fact, but it's cheap to do it up front, just to make some value. Ceiling separation. This time of the year, we hear that a lot. And this year it's not been too bad, thankfully. It's not been tremendously cold. There's another handout in there. It talks about ceiling separation. On every truss order that you get from us, one of these comes in a packet and explains what ceiling separation is, different causes for it. It's not always a truss. Sometimes it can be. Sometimes definitely is. And I've seen many of those over the years. If you look on the back of this page, it talks about how to attach your drywall or your sheetrock drywall and the floating corners, floating joints. Avail yourself to that. This is very good information. And again, every truss that you get, one of these are in a packet that you get with your delivery copies, that just talks about ceiling separation. Basic ceiling separation, we have a booth up over here that we'll be talking about that. We can show you. Basically what happens is the top cord expands, and because the truss works together, it pulls that bottom cord up when it's cold. When it's warm, it comes back down and it relaxes. And we have set up a display over here showing how to attach that drywall, and so that it'll float, that corner will float. And so come over here, Eddie and I will show you that at break or between the sessions. Again, I said if you want to have energy efficiency, you can raise that heel up on the end of the truss. It's going to add some cost to your job, but yes, that can be done. And I get asked a lot. I got a scissor. Max that out. Push that bottom cord pitch as much as you can. And there's a balance there. And if you've got a flat pitch top cord 412, you're not going to be able to really push that bottom cord pitch much over. Usually half of it, 2 is a good rule of thumb. If you get a little bit steeper on a shorter span, yeah, we can push that up, especially if you have a raised heel. Because what happens is, if that truss comes down, it pushes out. You get horizontal deflection. You get a crack up in that ceiling. You get a crack right down the middle there. It pushes that wall out. You get cracks in your drywall. Nobody wants callbacks. We don't like that. You don't like that. And so just remember that whenever we say, no, you really can't do that. Yes, we're conservative, but we kind of have seen the bad results of a deflecting because you don't have enough depth. Your bottom cord is too steep versus the top cord. there is a limit of what we can do, and usually, again, half of the outside pitch is a good rule of thumb, and then we can sometimes push that, and sometimes, according to what the truss is, we might have to go even less than that. There's not a good, you can't apply a principle for every time you get a truss. We've got just different options. We can do arch trusses. You can see those there. This truss over here has got, this truss here has got, just got a catheter with a flat spot built into it off of a hip. I'm talking about this one right here. This has got an arch built in it. Those are some things we can do. Here's some large timber trusses that we've done. Get some special engineering from my tech on those. The floor trusses. Scott is going to be giving some information on floor trusses here after a while, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on floor trusses. Floor trusses are used usually on floors over long spans. You can get some duct work in there. You can see you can hide some duct work. You can hide some plumbing. This is a chase that's built into the truss right here. You can see all the mechanicals that's going through those floor trusses. That's nice. Some markets really use a lot of them. I know you all do down in Owensboro, David, right? You use a lot of floor trusses. Other areas use a lot of I-joists, which we're going to talk about later. But if you have long spans, or you have an area where you want to try to get rid of your duct work and finish your ceiling, or at least not have anything hanging below your ceiling, floor truss can be a good option for you. We also have trimmable ends that we can do. You can see this here. This can be trimmed on 45-degree angles, or angles where trusses are sticking out. Those are really work well because you can trim those to the exact length. No, you can normally not cut a floor truss. Only if you see this. That doesn't mean that back in here you can cut one of those webs. That is not the just because that particular truss has that on it doesn't mean anything else can be cut on there. Floor trusses are well, I can't think of a really good situation, maybe one where you can cut like a top cord or something over a bearing, but don't cut anywhere unless you make sure that you've talked to Larry and he says it's okay. The questions that we have, I hear a lot of, my webs don't line up, and I'm wanting to get some additional space in there. Probably turn backwards, because we design those normally from one side of the house all the way through. We will line up those webs. And Larry usually has them paint one end of the truss a color. Where's Larry? He confer, let's make sure that's right. But he usually has them paint one end of the, paint one end of that truss, and then your layout also is painted that way. Turn the truss the right way, because especially if you want to have ductwork in there, it's important that those webs line up. I've got this here. Yes, we can build chases into the truss, but within these truss webs, assuming they're lined up, you can see, like here's a 16-inch floor truss. You can get a 12-by-6 rectangular area in there. Here you can get here's a round 10-inch round ductwork or something through, and that's huge if you've got a bunch of ductwork, etc. Those webs need to line up, and the deeper you go, obviously, the more room you have for ductwork. And now we can build like a square chase in the center third normally, up to usually around 2 feet. Is that fair, Steve? 2 feet or less? Yeah. And that can get you back to what I was talking about right here. That's a chase. It's actually built in, and those are nice. It's nice and square. And again, you need to turn them the right way so they line up. But then also, as I said, you have these other areas that you can put a supply or a return in if you need to. And again, Scott's going to be discussing more about floor trusses and strong backs. Strong backs is there is in your folder. Talks about strong backs. Strong backs is something that Scott's going to be talking about here, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time. It's basically just it's not a brace, but it acts as a transfer of force uniformly through you need to put those in about every 8 to 10 feet. And yes, they need to be in there. If you set remain floor trusses, you don't want to do them without the strongbacks. Well, here's just some things that were trimmed. You can see here they just kind of cut the bottom cord out. Here, this bottom cord of the truss has just been cut out. Those are no-nos, of course. Most of you, if you've been around as long as most of you have, you know you don't cut a truss. And if you do, you probably need to call us. Not probably, you need to call us before you do it. Okay, it's always nice to get a call heads up before you cut it, then after you cut it, oh, by the way, these are cut. What can we do? We'll work with you either way, but it's obviously better if you call before you cut. Wall panels, we're building a bunch of those right now, honestly. Travis has got is set up back here. Travis handles those here, and especially in the multi-family type settings. And we'll do the rough trusses, wall panels, floor trusses, I-joist, whatever the situation might be. It's good. We can work together, coordinate from the top down, the loads, track them down through, and using those wall panels, you can save, obviously, time on the job, waste. We coordinate all that together. I'm going to move on here. I-joist. Back in the mid-'80s, K&K took on engineered wood, and I was just talking to a couple guys back here earlier today. Jim Miller, if you guys remember Jim Miller, if you've been around here a while, some of you guys would remember Jim. Was somebody that worked here. He helped to get that started. He passed away, unfortunately, about a little over 8 years ago. He was a good friend and colleague, and but just a good man. But anyway, we have I-joist in 9.5, 11 7/8, 14 16 inch deep, up to 64 feet long. And there might be an application where you would need a 64-footer over multiple bearings. And we can do that if you need to, especially 9.5, 11 7/8. Floor joists can be used, obviously, for floor. Here they're using application as a rafter. If you've ever used rafters, I-joist is rafters. It's a lot of, it can be quite a bit of work. You need to use some extra hardware. We have LSL, long length LSL now, which is a good option because you can bird's mouth and not have the hardware that you have with I-joist, but you can use I-joist as a rafter if you desire that. One thing's nice about I-joist, like I said, those long lengths, you can go across bearings, multiple bearings, actually improves the performance of the joist, and takes some of the potential for squeaks out because they're straight. You're not overlapping like you would a 2x10, etc. We do have 11 7/8 42 series, which is a 3.5-inch flange. It'll span about 20 feet. What's good about that is if you got a long span area like a 20-foot span in a basement, and instead of going to a 14-inch and the whole house be 14-inch, which is more expensive than your 11 7/8 20 series, the 32 series that we would use, you can zone frame with that 42 series 11 7/8, go up to around 20 feet according to where it's at, what it's doing, and then you can go back to the little less expensive 11 7/8 in the rest of the house. That's something that's really an advantage that we've picked up in the last couple of years. Questions I get a lot. Can you drill holes in I-joists? There should be some knockouts on the I-joist, 1.5-inch holes that you can knock out. Those you can use, obviously. But yes, you can cut holes in joist. There is, with every delivery of I-joist or LVL, and you don't have one of these with you today in your packet, but when you get it in your packet of delivery copy, there is this 24x36 LP solid start engineered wood products installation manual. One side's Spanish and one side is English. You can choose which one you can read the best, but it shows you very specifically. It's basically this chart here, and what it does, it shows you can either cut a round hoe or a rectangular hoe. Round hoes are better, but you can find the joist size, 11 7/8 for 20, 32 series. You can follow across what the span is, how far from the bearing it is to the center of the hole, how big a hole you can cut. You could never cut closer than, I think it says a 1/4 inch. I tell my folks never more closer than a 1/2 inch from that flange. If you've got a question about cutting holes in joists, you can always call us. We can help you with that. I recommend to my customers, take this and post it on a wall somewhere in your house that you're building, and it's just there. And you got a plumber, electrician, etc. wants to cut a hole, drill a hole. They've got this. They got this available to see. You can use that. So that is there for your use. Get a question a lot. What will they span? 9.5 up to max about 16 foot on a single span. 11 7/8, 20 series, 17.5 feet. 32 series, 18.5 feet. The 42 series, 11 7/8 with the 3.5 inch flange. Again, about 22 foot on the 14 inch. These are at 16 inch centers, okay? And then at 16 inch deep, around 24. You can put them over a garage, build a knee wall on it, rafter. Usually at 24 foot, you're okay with that 16 inch deep eye joist. Just gives you an overview. Again, we're going to design at probably L over 600 on your floors, which means that they're stiffer than code, or 480 is pretty much minimum that we'll design at. And you can talk to some of the guys in the eye joist booth back there if you want to know what that means. I'll move on here. LVLs, laminated veneer lumber, is something that we use a lot of here. Usually they're used in garage door headers, beams in your basement over where you have posts that are pretty far apart. They're we have them 1 3/4 and 3.5, which allows you to have a 7-inch beam with a 3.5 inch center, 1 3/4 on either side, and you can still nail them together. By the way, just for your information, how to nail it together, I get asked that a lot. On this sheet, on this page, it talks about how to nail together. It usually says up to 11 7/8, 11 7/8 greater, 2 rows, a foot on center on the bottom, foot on center on top, alternating. If you're greater than, I think it's 11 7/8, it's 3 rows, but it tells very specifically here how to nail them together or attach them together if you have that issue. We can have those up into 52 feet, so if you have a issue of a long beam, if you can handle them, we can do those in 3.5 inch up to 52 feet. LSL, well, this is something that Eddie took a picture of. These come out of the factory at about 4% moisture. They have a site coat on them to keep the moisture off short term, but if you got a situation where water is getting to an LVL, this is one that was taken out that had been in about 15 years, but you can see what's happened. It's rotted. They do need to stay dry. LSL is something that we've picked up here in several years ago now, but laminated strand lumber. Again, rafters, great application for long rafters. LSL can use it because you can bird's mouth, you can get long lengths, they're nice and straight. The zone framing behind kitchen cabinets, bathrooms, vanities, great use of LSL. People call them OSB studs. Stair stringers, you can use it for stair stringers. Shorter headers, just general headers. It's a great opportunity to stock, if you're a lumber yard here, to stock LSL and send them out as headers. We have them in 1 3/4. Actually have 1.5 inch that we use in our trusses as well, but 1 3/4 and also 3.5. You can use those for, back up here, use them for headers. And then in tall wall applications, great, we can engineer those as well. So if you have a 2-story with an open area, you got several windows in it, just like this is, LSL, we have those in 3.5, 5.5, 7 1/4, 9.5, 11 7/8, 14 inch. and yeah, 14 inch, that's the maximum we have, but we have those 1.5 inch, 1.75 inch, and 3.5. So if you're wanting to have headers, we have them in a full 3.5. It's solid. You don't need to nail it together. It's a good option for you. Again, questions, can you drill holes in beams? If you don't have to, probably prefer that it's not a first option that you do, but yes, you can drill holes in beams. And if you go back again to this page, it talks about not only I-joist, how to nail them together, but it also gives you options on where and how big you can drill holes in beams. It's usually in this center third. It's in the center third horizontally, center third vertically, right there. You can drill a hole. You can drill up to you can drill an 1.5 inch hole, or up to 9.5, or a 2 inch hole, up to anything over 9.5 in that center third, vertically and horizontally. That doesn't mean a 4 inch hole. Doesn't mean it never can, but definitely don't cut it unless you ask us, okay? We'll get somebody to engineer that for you. In this area B here, you can drill a 3/4 inch hole in that area B there. These are beams that are uniformly loaded. I mean, it's got a joist coming along on both sides, or on one side, but it's uniformly loaded. If you see a great big old girder sitting on top of there, or an area where you got another beam setting on top of it, where it's got a concentrated load, this is all off. This is for only uniform loaded beams, okay? But yeah, you can cut some holes. And again, if you just post that on the wall somewhere in your house, and you can just go to that, and you can see where you can cut. It's very detailed what you can or cannot cut. Anyway, that's an option for you. Back in 2009, we picked up. Began selling Smart Side from LP, primed, and then later in April of 2013, we started our own K-line pre-finishes Smart Side. I know many of you are using that, and it's a good segment of our business that we've started. But LP, Louisiana Pacific Smart Side, you have lap, 16-foot lengths in fiber cement, etc. It's 12-foot lengths, 33% fewer joints. You can get panel. This is a panel. Well, probably a panel with some board and batten. They can be 4x8, 4x9, 4x10. You can have those. The trim. There were some shakes in here somewhere probably. Where did I see a shake? That's probably a shake. Shakes up in your gables. You see those a lot? Hey, John. I haven't seen John for a while. How you doing, John? And the storage barns, things like that. This is a good option. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on the Smart Side. We're going to be talking about that more here later. Some other things we have. Subfloor OSB from LP. Also, Tech Shield, the Radiant Bearer roof sheathing. I know there's some areas here that use that a lot. Reduces the amount of heat into your attic, which increases your energy efficiency in your home. And something that's going to be talked about today and later is LP Flame Block. It's a fire-rated OSB sheathing that you can use, especially in multi-family applications where you have party walls, demising walls that have to be fire-rated or fire code. It's a good option for that. But we'll... I know break's coming up. I don't want to keep you guys too long here. Hangers, we have USB hangers. We have a booth back here of those as well. We have a number of hangers available. Remember, though, in our inventory, we have them mostly for things that we use, like I-joist, top mount hangers, face mount hangers, or beams, 3.5 inch, 1.75 inch, or 7 inch, 5.25. We can do them inverted flange, which is nice, like on porches, or some applications around stairways. We can invert the flange. or we have those available in some applications. Of course, 1.5 inch for trusses, multiple options for trusses, and this here is a hanger for like at a ridge on a stick frame situation, skewed, and then we can skew it and slope it. Number of different options on that. Or we can custom order hangers as well for you if you have other applications. MyTech stabilizers, I think I saw some of those back there as well. MyTech stabilizers are the 2-foot or 16-inch on center. They can stay on as opposed to using your nailers bracing for your trusses. It's a good quick way to set your trusses. When you get a quote from us on a house, majority of the time you're going to see a layout like this, especially if you have a custom order. You're going to see a layout like this. We do need a plan, like I said here, in order to do that. There's common questions that I ask almost every time when I get those, and sometimes folks don't. We're going to need to know what the overhang is. Again, that heel situation. Do you want that heel raised so that you get some energy efficiency? Because that's going to make about 8 to 10% difference on your costs, more if you raise it. Ceilings. Is there going to be a cathedral ceiling anywhere? Do you want a tray ceiling somewhere? What storage of your garage? Things we need to know. In your floors, do you want us to provide the beams? Are you going to put steel in there? Are you going to actually, excuse me, you going to build the walls that show on the plan or not? There's going to be an open basement unfinished. We need beams. We just need to know, do you want us to do those? Are you going to use the bearing walls? Can we use bearing walls? Just questions in order for us to do a good engineered layout, starting from the top. Gravity goes down, of course, starting at the top, tracking the loads down through. And we do that for you. And so whenever you're getting a quote from us with a layout, you're really getting more than just a number. You're getting a layout that shows that this is how it can be done. It can be engineered, the floor system as well. And I'm sure that since most of you guys have been with us for a long time, and other companies for that matter, we're going to call you and going to ask a lot of questions, but that's because we're wanting to make sure that what you get as a quote will work. And you know that it's engineered and it's okay. And we come back with these big notes on there. Before ordered, need to verify this ceiling can't be like this, or this beam is going to have to be moved. This wall in the basement might need to be moved a foot one way or the other, or something like that. And those notes, look for them. They are important. That's just things that need to be worked out or will be worked out at the time of the quote. And it does take time. If you just want a quick quote, just want a rough quote, we can do that. But what we find is most of you don't really like that, at least not in my area. You would like to have this layout. If for nothing else, you want to know the square foot of the roof and how much overhang, et cetera. And if we don't do a layout, we can't give you that. So you're getting a layout and a floor layout usually with it, either I-joist or floor trusses, shows where you need to have piers, where you need to thicken your slab, where you need to make sure that you have bearing condition. And that does take time. Sometimes you send in a garage, we can do that just really quick, or a addition. Those are things that are pretty easy to do. But if you're sending a custom house like this, likely there's others that we need to do before it, probably, not always, but it takes some time to do that and to do it right and to get all the information for you. Just some things that are available. Our website, kktrust.com. Go there, some information for you. If you have a customer that's needing to know some information, got some links there to some LP, Louisiana Pacific things. There's also just some information basically about trusses. Also literature. We have an unbelievable amount of literature that we can give to you, and most of the lumber yards have that. If you're a customer of K&K's, have that available to give out. And if you don't have that, talk to your sales rep, they can get you some. If you have a contractor or a lumber yard, you have open houses, appreciation days, you want to have tabletops like with some of these we have here, we can come to those as well. Glad to help you with those, or get our products in front of your customers. Also, this trailer you're seeing set over here, that is portable. It's got a number of different options on smart side, pre-finished. It's also on the inside. It's got some engineered wood products, even a truss in there. So that's something we can take to your show if you like, and it's been something that's been popular in many locations. So that is available. Some of you, I know, have seen that, and we redid it here, a year ago? Brad, again, just put a whole new set of different types of siding and stuff on it, different colors. So that is available for you to use as well. Thank you for your time.
If I could have your attention, we do want to get started. And I want to mention, I think most of you have found the booths out around. The one we want to specifically mention is we have a new updated website. We've taken that in-house. Marcus, raise your hand, Marcus. That guy right there. He is taking care of the website now, and he's modernizing it. There's going to be these talks will be on there and several other things, but if you have suggestions of literature or something that you would like on there, make sure that you go over there at his booth and let him know. Okay, we're going to get started, and I'm going to introduce to you Scott Miller, Vice President of Engineering of MyTech. You guys remember him. He does a wonderful job. He's going to get some interactive things going, and so we're going to turn it over to him.
Good morning. Nice. All right. So this is the engineering presentation of the day, and I know that you guys, when you woke up this morning, you were so excited. You said, "I can't wait. I'm going to go learn about engineering." Yeah. So, actually, how many people in the room have been here when I've done one of my engineering presentations in the past? All right. So one thing is going to be a little bit different this year. And I think every year that I've ever done one, except for one maybe, I've always broken something, which is always kind of fun to break something. But you didn't get to actually get the saw in your hand and break something and put the loads on it. You just got to watch me have all the fun. Well, this year, we're not going to break something, but this year, whenever we get to the demonstration portion of today's presentation, you all will get to be involved in it somewhat with these floors that we have set up over here. And so the first thing I want to do, though, is I want to thank K&K for the opportunity to come and present to you all today. And the thing that I'm going to be talking about today is one way to improve the performance of your floor systems, and it's really based on how you go about installing them. And because, you know, I've got a couple of pictures. This first one, how many of you been in a house before and somebody walks across the floor and or better yet, a little girl like that little red-haired girl goes running across the floor, and then mom frantically holds onto the china cabinet because it's rattling so terribly. And that's vibration in the floor system. And you know, that's not a good performing floor system when you have that vibration in the floor. So there's a way to remedy that when we're using open web floor trusses, and there's similar things that can be used with other framing systems, but I'm focused on metal plate connected wood floor trusses. So the other thing that you'll sometimes have that's not really good performing floor systems is when you have this differential deflection, we call it. That's some good engineering words. Or it's you've got the floor framing in here is running front to back, and you've got this partition wall along here that's pushing down on that floor truss, and then you've got underneath here, you've got one on the bottom pushing up, and so you've got a gap. So this floor truss is deflected, you know, something like an inch or an inch and a half just in a couple of feet right here. And has anybody ever seen that happen before? Yeah, we all have, and it's a terrible thing. And there's ways to remedy that. And so the thing that we can do to fix both of those issues, or reduce both of those issues of vibration and this differential deflection, is a thing called strong backs. And I kind of had some fun making the strong backs word kind of bounce in there, because we're talking about vibration, and so that was fun. So strong backs. Now this is a standard MyTech detail, and interestingly enough, it's in all of your handout material, so you've all got a copy of this. But I want to kind of go through it, because there's a whole lot of words and pictures on there, so I want to just break it down and make it simple for you. There's demonstrations on here about, I'm gonna zoom in. So in the middle of the page, it talks about, about 10 different ways that you could thread the strong backs through the floor system. But the thing is that most of those never get used. Almost exclusively, these two methods get used, and these are the best methods. So they're the easiest and they're the best. And so let's look at why. What makes these so good? And the first thing, the first example is when you've got a vertical web, you're attaching the strong back directly to that vertical web. Well, what if you don't have a vertical web where you want to run your strong back? That's not a problem. You can put a vertical web wherever you want. You just nail a 2x4 scab vertically on the side of the truss with two 10D gun nails top and bottom, and then you attach the strong back to your vertical web, be it one that's built in or one you've added, with 3 10D gun nails. Pretty simple. Now, you'll notice on that standard detail that it also had ways of doing it at the top or the bottom. I'm focused on the bottom, and the reason for that is when you take a beam and you push down on it and it deflects down, it doesn't just deflect straight down, it actually twists. You can't really see it with your eyeballs, but any beam, when it deflects, it also is twisting like this. So you can imagine if I hold the bottom edge from deflecting to the side, I'm making it stronger. So it's not going to deflect down as much. And so what we're doing by putting these strong backs on the bottom edge, what we're really doing is we're taking that deflection and reducing it so that whole floor system is a whole lot stiffer. And so by doing that, we take the vibration out. And so remember, we talked about vibration, and we also talked about that differential deflection where one deflects and the one next to it doesn't. So what I've got here, this is my first demonstration, and these are some trusses that are super, super light. They're just strong enough, to hold me. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand on that middle truss, really, and you'll see that when I get on here, and what I'm going to do, hopefully a lot of you guys can see what I'm going to show you here in a second, but I'm going to guess that in the back of the room it might be hard. So after the presentation's over, I'll stay up here and can kind of redo this. But what you'll see is as I bounce on that, you'll see that middle truss is deflecting down. I can't do it too much or this sucker will break. These are 1x8s that we ripped down and purposefully designed super light. So you can see that middle truss is deflecting down as I'm bouncing on it like that. I'll gently step off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my strong back. And so what I'll do is I'll thread my strong back in there. And what we did is we created a notch to put our strong back in so that, there we go. All right, now I've got my strong back added, but I didn't have to use a nail or screws to attach my strong back. And now, when I load it up, you can see that the whole system is carrying my load rather than just that one truss. And that same thing holds true Imagine that you've got a partition wall running along here, and then you've got, nothing out here. Or maybe you got a piano sitting here and nothing right here, so you could imagine that it would dip down. What this does is it load shares that load out over all the trusses, not just this one, but this one, and it makes for a really stiff floor system. And the other thing they do is the vibration. Now, lost my breath a little bit, kind of pounding that in there. So let's look at this vibration thing. So what I've got over here are 2 floor systems. I'm going to guess that everybody here just about was curious and said, and you went around and you looked at that and said, why in the world do they have 2 dance floors set up with trays of water sitting in the middle of them? And, well, what I've done is I've purposefully designed I purposefully designed a really bad floor truss. This is not designed it wouldn't carry the 40 pound per square foot live load that the code requires. And these are very shallow. They're purposefully designed to be very, very light. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to accentuate bad behavior in a floor system. So I purposefully engineered them to be bad. But what you'll be able to see is the difference, because we've got strong backs installed in one set and not in the other set. And so what you'll be able to do is simply walk on the floor, and as you do, you can watch the water in the tray vibrate. And then you walk on the other one, and you watch the water in the tray vibrate far less. The one on the far side has strong backs attached. Now, one other thing about strong backs, and this is just sort of a diagonal view, another thing you'll know about strong backs is that the ends of the strong backs, it's best if they're tied off to something like the wall at the end of the building. And the reason for that, if you think about it, remember I said that as that thing deflects, it wants to go to the side, right? Well, they would just all go to the side together unless I hold the end. So what you'll see on these strong backs over here is we've got one end of those strong backs tap-conned into the floor system so that those strong backs don't shake back and forth. We purposefully pushed it out away from the trusses so it's not adding like a bearing at that location. It's only making it so the strong backs don't go side to side. Another question that comes up a lot is, what if my floor span or perpendicular to the trusses is longer than I have a 2x6 that can thread through there? Can I splice it? Yeah. You just attach a 4-foot scab on one side of your splice, and that's not a problem. You'll notice in this picture that the strong back is at the top. Again, I said it's better if you go at the bottom, but you can go at the top. If you go at the top, it's best to, if you can have a vertical support as shown there, that would be helpful. All right, here's a quiz. Here's a picture of some floor trusses with a strong back attached. And do you see anything wrong? Splice. Yeah, there's a splice right there, right in the middle of the page. Let's see if this works. Right there. I could do some like a mouse or something like that, but yeah, it's right there. And there's not a scab on that. It is at the bottom and it is at a vertical web, so those are some good things. Another thing that comes up a lot is, Scott, I'm running my strong backs through the floor system, and in this case, I've got some sort of vertical obstruction, like a HVAC duct or something like that running up through the floors. Is it possible to make my strong backs go around that? And the answer is yes. The less you do it, obviously, the better. But obviously, every once in a while, you've got to have a break in the floor and kind of go around to the side. The only thing that matters when you do it is to overlap two trusses like this. So this strong back that's going out this way comes across here. This strong back goes back over to that one. So you've got to have an overlap of at least over the two trusses when you have a discontinuity in your strong back. All right, so now let's play with this thing. So at this point in time, what you'll be able to do, and they'll probably have to wait till they go on a break, and I can't believe I didn't get feedback when I walked right in front of that speaker. But there's a couple of ways that you can kind of check this out. One way is if you and a friend get up here, you stand still and have your friend kind of jump, and you'll be able to feel the vibration of your friend. You know, your friend can just walk on the floor while you just stand still and you just kind of feel it. And then you go over to this one that has the strong backs and repeat that. Have your friend walk on it while you stand still and you can feel the difference. The other thing that you can do if you're by yourself is you can just kind of jump on it, look at the water, and look at the water, or just walk on it. You know, it's kind of jump over here and walk on it. You're going to see some vibration in both, but you're going to see a lot more vibration in this floor system than you are in that floor system. And all it is, again, we have strong backs installed here and here. How often do you need to put in strong backs? 10 foot on center. That's the only number you have to remember is 10 foot on center. That's pretty easy. I'll sneak around behind the speaker this time so I don't get feedback. I think that is it. But I am happy to take any questions that you have on strong backs or anything else to do with metal plate connected wood trusses from a engineering perspective. Don't ask me about how much they cost, because that I can't help you with. But anything on the engineering side I can try to help you with, particularly strong backs. Any questions at all?
Thank you, Scott. Let's give him a nice round of applause. When we go out here in a little bit, make sure you do jump on those, because it tells the story. Okay, at this time, we're going to have the K-Line pre-finished Smart Side presentation, and I'm going to introduce Scott Yoder. He's Viola's son-in-law. I would say the favorite son-in-law, but Steve's here, so I don't know whether I could get by with that or not. And him and Darla take care of management at K-Line. So, Scotty.
Good morning, guys. As he mentioned, my name is Scott Yoder. I am a son-in-law, outlaw, whatever you want to call me. Me and my wife head up the siding pre-finishing business down in Lagodi. And we started, just to give you a little bit of a kind of a history of how we got going. We started carrying LP Smart Side. I think we got our first truckload in here in 2009, the beginning of 2009. And I, for one, was a little bit skeptical. Sorry, Jeff. Yeah, thank you. When you look at it, you think you're looking at OSB. You know, you flip it over. But the more you work with it, the more you handle it day in and day out, you can obviously tell that they've got something special going on. Anybody new to Smart Side here? Everybody's kind of heard about Smart Side, maybe not used it yet. Anyway, that was in 2009. We started getting some calls for pre-finished. So we started using a pre-finisher out of Wisconsin. That went well for a couple of years. The problem with that being they were 10 hours away. It was a superior product, really good. But when you're doing job lots, it's kind of hard if you run short on a job to get what you need in a quick span of time. So being the people that we are, we thought we're going to try this ourselves. And we purchased a piece of property just off of Highway 50 down right before you get into Lagodi. Used to be a John Deere dealership back in the 1960s. And then from there it went to some other businesses. But we bought that, went in and basically gutted the thing, refurbished a lot of stuff, put in a showroom, some offices, We put our oven in there. Basically, about 22,000 square feet is what it is, and we started doing our own pre-finishing. We've had a lot of headaches, but we've learned a tremendous amount as far as the actual process. We continue to learn every day, but it's been exciting too to see people come in with ideas, and that's another thing I want to talk about is colors. We've partnered with Sherwin-Williams, and for a big company, they have really helped us out. We had some talks with other companies, and nobody really seemed interested, but Sherwin-Williams has been over backwards with equipment that we bought, spray booths, the oven even. And so basically how it works is Sherwin-Williams is in any small town America. How you can do that, we have our what we call our stocking colors, which runs about 20 to 22 colors, something like that. That's paint we keep on hand at all times. But we don't want to lose a sale for that. So you can tell your customer to go into their local Sherwin store, pick with, they've got 3, 4, 5,000 colors, whatever they got, and we can basically get anything they want at no extra charge. It might take a little extra time, but we can do that. So don't lose a sale just because we don't have a specific color on our chart back there. One of the things that we kind of pride ourselves in is what we call the stain look colors, or the Platinum Plus series. If you look over there on the show trailer, the little shakes in that gable end, that's kind of a whitewash look. We've got a few what we call our stock colors in that, but we've also want people, I don't know if my shop guys do, but want people to come in with ideas. We had an older couple come in, I think that was last year, might have been 2 years ago, with a stained garage door panel, and they were wanting to build their barn, something to kind of match that. So we spent a little time with that. We painted a panel for them, had them come in and okay it, and it's actually on a picture over there. If you go over there and look at those canvas, it's on one of the smaller ones up in the top. It's kind of a weathered brown look, and they were just bouncing off the walls with that. So that's what we want. We can keep that recipe and repeat that. We've sold quite a few jobs just off of doing that. So that's no extra charge to you guys, so use that. And okay, yeah, I was telling him to put some pictures up here. And I'm the photographer, so if they don't look that great, whatever. But I haven't got around, and if some of you guys have some homes that we've done, please get with me or shoot me an email. I have my cards over there. I would love to get out and get some pictures of it, because that's how we can build our gallery. Just the other day, I sold a job off of just showing a lady the pictures. I emailed to her and sold a job. So it's a great tool. Our website, I might mention that. I don't know if anybody has, but our website we struggled with that thing for years, but Marcus up here, my nephew, and there's some other guys have helped out. And I think we got more of a professional-looking website now. But anyway, use that website. It does work, I think, right? You're on it now? There was a time it didn't work. The colors, I talked about that. The show trailer that you see over there, that's for you guys to use. That thing needs to be on the road. And Brad Kirkman, which is our outside sales guy for down there, he will bring that thing to your show. If we can work it out to where we can do a grill session, or maybe you guys are hosting a customer appreciation day, by all means, get us, tell my wife over there or somebody over there at our table to mark us down for such and such a date, and we'll try to make that thing work. That thing needs to be on the road. Doesn't cost you anything, so use it. It shows all we do at K&K, and then we've got our siding wrapped around it. Talked about the website. Plant tours. You guys, we're going to have the plant open in Lagodi. I did not print out any maps this year. If you want to know how to get there, it's very simple. You go out here to the next road over. I can't even tell you the county road. County Road 900. Just down here about a half a mile. You take a right. You go as far south as you can until you run into Highway 50. You take a left, and it's about 3 or 4 miles on the left, right before you get into Lagodi, and it sits right on the highway. with that, I might introduce the people that work in the office at K&K. That way, when you when you call in, you're gonna know or put a face with a name. Brad, if you want to raise your hand there, he's our outside salesman. A lot of you guys have probably met him, dealt with him. I won't hold that against you. No, he's a good guy, very knowledgeable, and we'll get around with that trailer or whatever you need. If you guys need an install to help get started, you got a contractor, or maybe you are a contractor, he can come out for an hour or two, spend some time with you, and help you, give you some ideas of how to go up with stuff. Next guy over is Jason Hawkins. He's in and out 2-3 times a week. He also does road sales for trusses and things like that. Devin Whitmer, he's in there full time. So a lot of you may have talked to him. And then my wife, Darla, she answers the phone a lot. And then my niece, Alexis, she's just starting in there a couple days a week. You may, she's a little bit nervous right now, but we're getting her broke in. So, but she's going to be answering the phone maybe and taking some phone calls and doing things like that. So that's all I have. Has anybody got any questions before I turn it over to Brad? I think he wants to talk about maybe some caulking and H-mold and pan flashing type things. So if you got any questions, you can holler at me over the table, I guess. We'll keep this thing rolling along. So, Brad, you want to come up here? No, I don't think he does.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. Good to see all of you. Some of you I know real well. Some of them have known you for a long, long time, some for a short time. I was, before I get to caulking and fan flashing, I would say I was probably about as much impressed with those 7 core values that we heard this morning as anything I've heard in a long time. Moving that forward into a business, I think is, I hope you guys were listening. It made me think of a story I've told several of you a lot of times. But I have 5 children, and 4 of those 5 children walk with God. A little bit of math. My wife's grandpa recently passed away. So from him to my granddaughter is 5 generations. If each one of those 4 children have 5 children, I get 20 grandchildren, first generation. Second generation, which actually be third, that's 100 great-grandchildren. Next is 500 great-great-grandchildren. Next is 2,500. And if each one of those has a companion, that's 5,000 souls that are affected by a decision that I make today. So as contractors, builders, lumberyard guys, Christian men and women, measure those decisions. Pay attention. It's going to affect somebody. So I appreciate your 7 core values. Thank you so much. On the caulk and the H-molds, we've had some issues, we've had some problems. We've had some ugly messes of caulk in the field, in the flat parts of the walls. Thumbs go down it. I've been on a couple jobs where it looked like they may have tooled it with their elbow. I don't know, their nail bag, I'm not sure what they did. Whatever it was wrong. And then I've got a problem at a job where when the LP expands, which is what it does, the caulk, it's cold, and it didn't give like it should have. So now I've got a bubble in a wall. It's not LP's fault, not Sherwin-Williams' fault, not K-Line's fault, not the contractor's fault, and I'll say it may not even be the caulk's fault, but there's a problem. So at K-Line, we've decided, how do we handle this? What are we going to do moving forward? How do we protect this or cure this? So with LP's help, we've dug in, and if you look on the trailer on this front side under the porch, you'll see some H-molds where the joints are in the flat. They camouflage fairly well. You don't see them too much. On the back side, on the red siding, you'll see some gaps. It's a little bit more than the thickness of a dime. It's already starting to acclimate, starting to get to where it's going. Behind that is aluminum pan flashing. When I say color match, I shouldn't, because it's not a color match. It's a color that's okay. So reds, you may use gray. It may be a red. But you want it to be a dead color, if I can say that. So whenever you pull in your house and your headlights show on your car or on your house, you don't see silver lines. It's just a line. And as that comes together, after about a year, that should get to be about the thickness of a dime, about what that is now. So take a look at that and see if you don't think that looks better and nicer than caulking that's been tooled with your elbow on the side of a house. I think it's something. You'll still have to use good sealant around the doors and windows and, waterproof it. That's what you do. You waterproof houses. So really that's basically all I've got to share. I would like to say, as Scott introduced the salespeople, I also want to acknowledge the guys out in the shop that work hard. We're not very big, K-Line. We're pretty small. Don't have a lot of workers in the shop. But they've been diligent and strong and faithful, and I'm not exactly sure how many square feet we did in 2016, but a bunch. Those guys worked hard, and they're glad to show you what they can do. So they're kind of milling around. Feel free to ask them anything about how it's done or why it's done. When you get over to K-Line after the seminar, they'll spend a little time with you according to your needs. That would be really all I have. If there's no questions, I'll be quiet. Thank you for no questions and also being attentive. Yes.
Next victim in line, speaker. I'm Jeff Bills with LP Building Products. I want to start by thanking K&K for having LP here again this year. We do our duty every year, Jerry. No matter how bad the food is and the cinnamon rolls, we force them down. We are going to feature Flame Block today, and Flame Block is our Class A fire-rated OSB. And we're going to get to that in a minute, but I did want to tell you real briefly about one new product we have out in SmartSide that is so new, we haven't made it yet. It's being made this week at our Tomahawk, Wisconsin plant. And we've got a press release that we've put out, which is over here on the K-Line table. So if you're interested in this product, pick one up. We're looking for trial jobs to get photographs to create literature for this product. And I'll just tell you real briefly how this product came about, because it's kind of comical. We had a builder in Indianapolis who decided that he was doing a lot of board and batten applications for all the homes out there that are Craftsman series. He was doing it on gables on a steep pitch roof. He was doing it on bump outs, and in some cases the whole house. So they decided, why couldn't they take no groove, 16-inch soffit, turn it vertical, and create a seamless board and batten for 16 feet. And it looks beautiful, and it's a great idea. And we liked it so much, we copied it, and we are now introducing a 3/8-inch thick strand substrate, 16-inch wide, wood grain panel, 16 foot long, that you can put in a gable end, a bump out, or even on a wall. And you can run 16 lineal feet with our trim over the joints, 2-inch, 3-inch, or 4-inch trim or wider. And you have no horizontal seams, no horizontal flashing, and no blocking for 16 feet. And we're really excited about it. I think it's going to be a great product for us. Now, the one mistake the builder made was they used soffit for siding, which you cannot do. All of our products are designed and manufactured specifically for their end use, so you do need to use them there. One of the reasons you can't use soffit for siding is we dial that back a little bit because it's our least exposed application under a roof. The only way the soffit gets wet is if the roof fails. So we don't prime the edges of soffit, and we dial back the zinc borate and resin a little bit. It's the lowest tech product that we make is 4x8 soffit. So whatever you do, try not to use any of the products for uses that they're not designed and ready to go for. And if you do have an idea to use one, bring it to us. This builder built 40 homes with soffit before we even knew that they were doing it. And so we shook their hand and told them, you did a great thing in terms of thinking of a great way to use the product. We just need to make the product that you need to use. And they haven't had any problems with the product, and they may well not, because for years and years until LP said that you can't use one product in another application. Lots of them were used that way, and they're performing fine. So I just wanted you to know that that product is being run this week, and sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks, K-Line will have some in inventory, and if anybody would like to try some, we would love to work with you to get some photographs and use it perhaps in our literature, which we're going to create. We do have an installation specification for that, which we will put into your hands if you decide to try it out. But it's going to be a great product. We're really excited about it. So any questions on that? That product, by the way, can go over sheathing or over open studs with a moisture-resistive barrier per your local code with no sub-sheathing, because remember, strand products have the strength that they don't even require a sub-sheathing up to 16 inches on center. So there's different things that you can do with the product in that regard. I guess then we'll go ahead and introduce our flame block specialist, Randy Trussell. Randy's from Texas. Don't hold that against him, please.
And as Mom.
And Randy's going to tell you a little bit about our flame block product, Class A OSB, and we're going to do a live mini house. Remember, mini house, not dog house. Don't be downgrading our stuff here. We're going to do a mini house live burn right outside the door here when Randy's done telling you about flame block. Randy?
Where's our tech guy to turn the computer on?
Help! IT!
Again, my name's Randy Trussell. Thank you very much for coming. You have a great partner with K&K. I've worked with several distributors, specifically in my area, in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana. These guys are top notch. And what became as a little visit, I have a son, I'm fortunate to have a son that plays football at Purdue, and I came in to work with Jeff, and I got to meet these guys, and now it's being shoved out from underneath my feet because we have a new guy that's going to be working with this, Tony Jenkins. So basically what we do is we work with architects, engineers, builders, developers, developing the specs. And we were hooked up to this. I need to get into that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of slides here in a few minutes. I'm going to show you, we do these burn events as marketing events where we invite architects, engineers, developers, and there we go. Yeah. If I can get there. So this is condensed pretty fast, but one thing that we're trying to show here is not necessarily how bad OSB is, but the performance of the flame block. So the one on the right obviously is raw OSB, the one on the left is our two-sided flame block. Here in a second I'm going to stop the video, and we have, similar to what we're going to have outside, we're going to have ignition sources that are exactly the same. So when on these big burn events, on the outside and the inside, we have some hay with some pallets on top of it. So here we are at 5 minutes, and you have the raw OSB already pretty much fully engulfed and burned through. So as you go through this a little bit further, with less than 8 minutes, you're going to have an empty shell, if you will, of the OSB. We're going to do a smaller version of this outside with our small homes, or doghouse size, if you will. So, LP flame block. What is flame block? Get out of the way. Flame block, we take our raw OSB panel. Okay, we take our raw OSB panel and we coat it on one side or two sides. We have samples back there in the back. The coating itself is white, and we call it pyrrhotite. So what pyrrhotite is three main components is water, magnesium oxide, which is very similar in gypsum makeup, like what you mine down in Shoals, and fiberglass strand. When we put that on top of the OSB panel, that gives us a Class A fire rating. Okay, we go through all the testing called ASTM E84 tunnel test, and it gives us a Class A fire rating. It also is impact resistant. We'll talk about that here in a minute, some of the benefits with that. Some products that you may see in comparison to this will be FRT plywood, okay, one of those. This picture right here was taken in downtown Fort Worth after some significant rains, and you see this line right here is from what plywood will do when it gets wet, when it cups, delaminates, and warps. So this is a slide here talking about why would you not use FRT, and this was taken in one of our lumber dealers out in West Texas. So you can see this FRT here, this is still bundled up and strapped up. This product right here was actually some of it was returned, some of it was a loose bundle, but you can see what it's happening to it. It's starting to delaminate and it's starting to cup and warp. This product will never be sold for number one product. It's going to be sold at a scratch and dent, pennies on the dollar. I'm sure that happens with some of y'all where you have some lumber that gets returned or you have some that nobody wants because it cups and warps, and then you're going to have to sell it for pennies on the dollar. This was actually one of our distributors in West Texas in his warehouse. Again, this product here is still bundled up. You can tell it's fairly new. They rotated the stock, but they rotated stock in there that's still starting to show delamination. This is in a warehouse, okay? There's a competitive product that we see a lot in my area. I don't know if it's as prevalent up here. It's called Hoover. We do our AIA presentations face-to-face, similar to what we're doing right here. They have an AIA presentation that's online. So I went on there and took their AIA course. This is one of their slides, okay? There's two grades of FRT plywood, fire-rated plywood, interior and exterior. This slide is off of that AIA presentation, where it talks about the exterior use and the interior use, and that over time, weather, damp, moisture exposure is going to affect the fire treatment of the product. I'm going to flash forward a couple of slides real quick. This project right here is is in Austin, okay? We talked about the effect of moisture on a project with fire-treated plywood. This project right here was in frame for over 7 months, something like that, and a time frame last year where we had more rain measured in the state of Texas than we've ever had measured before. At one point, somebody made a calculation that if they took all the rain totals and dumped it on the state of Texas, it would fill the whole state with a foot of water. That's a lot of water. But this project withstood the moisture and the rain for over 7 months. This was about 4 rail cars worth of product. So, what happens with that if that was FRT plywood, fire-rated plywood on that? How much fire effectiveness would that have lost in that? Same with using it on roof deck. We have an application that I'll show you in just a few minutes about the roof deck application for this. Another competitive product is flame decks. I understand, talking to some of the people here, that this has been showing up in your market. Flame decks is manufactured in Nashville, Tennessee, and as you can see right here, there's supposed to be a coating on it, and you can see right here it's pretty thick. It's getting close to where it needs to be, but this is not where it needs to be. That's virtually raw OSB. We saw in the burn, and you'll see out there what raw OSB is going to do to it. So I called the code official at Fort Worth and told him, you got an issue with the project down here. So he gave the GC and the framer 2 options: replace the products that were bad, the areas that were bad, or repaint it. So what they did is they decided to take an incandescent paint, fire-rated paint, and repaint it. That's that white right there. So Flame Decks is cheaper product than Flame Block, but when you look at what they had to do afterwards, how much money did they really save? This product now is banned in Fort Worth, and it's also banned in Austin for a similar application. This is another big project, and these we see a lot in my area because of the multifamily growth. You may not see them quite as much here, and when you do see them, it's usually going to be around a university, student housing. So if you see some of these, this is going to be a huge opportunity for a lot of product. The two-sided product, we mentioned with some of the people that have come by the booth, our table, that the two-sided product is only used in one application, and that is in the 5-story or what is called type 3 construction, where you need a 2-hour interior rated wall on the outside wall. So we have this UL assembly with our two-sided flame block. Everything is virtually the same as with our competitive assemblies, except you're able to use the flame block as opposed to the exterior that I'm going to show you in just a second, which is a lot of times what you're seeing being used on this is a layer of structural panel and then a gyp panel. Okay, you got those two panels, whereas with ours, you can replace those two panels with one panel. So you go back to that job that I had in Austin, where it was 4 rail cars of flame block. So if you had the structural panel and then the gyp panel, that's now 8 rail cars of product going on that job. Okay, a lot more labor involved with that as opposed with this. This was a mock-up of a job done in Houston. I'm going to flip through some of these real quick. Another opportunity that may be a little bit more applicable for some of you is zero lot line. So anytime a home, 2 dwellings are within 10 feet of one another, you're going to need a 1-hour exterior rated wall. Okay. This is a project in downtown Dallas that David Weekley was doing. So what they were doing, you'll see right here, this is one dwelling and this is the other. These are 2 buildings separated by only 3 foot. So what they were doing, because they were 3-story, they need a structural panel, they need a fire performance panel, and then they had their siding. They had 3 skins. So as you can see, it's pretty tight quarters. So what happened was they had issues with moving their scaffolding up and down 3 times. So what we were able to do is to go offer them our 60-1 assembly. Still has the gypsum, it has the stud and cavity wall insulation, but what we were able to do is to replace those 2 structural panels with 1 piece of flame block. So when you look at this assembly right here and how tight the quarters are, that was a huge time savings for them. Okay. The other part was when they started stacking product in for the 3rd level, they had to take that sky lift and drop it in from the roof deck. So we weren't able to eliminate moving the scaffolding or using something different with this, but we were able to reduce it by 1 step. It was a huge opportunity for this builder. One of the ones that I wanted to talk to you in length about or take some time over, and we've talked to some of y'all already, is a party wall. So when you look at a duplex, a quadplex, a townhome, a condominium, between Unit A and Unit B, you need to have a 2-hour area separation wall or common wall. A lot of times what you're seeing being used on that are 2 layers of shaft wall liner. This is a job with 2 layers of shaft wall liner sandwiched in between one another. You'll notice these black or gray strips. With that 1-inch shaft wall liner, you have all these metal accessories that go with it. You have the H channel for your vertical connections. For your horizontal connections, you're going to have a C or H channel there. You're going to have aluminum breakaway clips. Then you're going to have to use drywall screws. Okay? As opposed to our U350 assembly, I'm going to go to B first. Our U350 assembly, so you take the 2 pieces of one-sided flame block, and basically it replaces the area where the 1-inch shaft wall liner is. Now, one thing I didn't mention about the flame block, it's OSB that has a coating on it. It cuts, it nails, it has the same nailing pattern, it has the same gapping, everything is regular OSB. All of our testing under ASTM E119 test, which is an assembly test, assembly wall test, All of those are also tested without any joint treatments or any treatments over the nail heads, okay? So, you have this assembly here for the area separation wall or common wall. You have your studs, your insulation, you have your 5/8 jip. This one shows an option for some hat channel underneath the jip. This assembly without the hat channel gives you a 56 STC rating. That's a sound transmission rating, which is still within the realm of where it needs to be. If you add the hat channel, it'll bump it up to 61. Let me get to the other one. I'm having to flash through. This one is 350A. So basically what you have here, you take your flame block from the interior property line and you move it into the interior part of the wall. You put it on the interior part of the stud and put your gypsum on top of that. Okay? Again, this assembly gives you a 2-hour wall from unit A to unit B. And one thing I mentioned to some of the sales reps from here and even some of our reps when I'm working with them, we're not selling flame block. We're selling assemblies that have flame block in them, okay? Here's a job in Houston where they're using the U350. 1-inch shaft wall liner. Now then, I was talking to somebody earlier about that, using the shaft wall liner. This shaft wall liner weighs 10 pounds per square foot. Our one-sided flame block weighs 2 pounds per square foot. Okay? Significant weight difference. The other part that comes along with it, everybody in here pretty much has worked with gypsum before. Every time you deliver it, every time you handle it, you have an opportunity for damage. Who's going to pay for that damage? Somebody in this room is going to pay for it. The builder, the dealer, somebody. The other part of it is, a lot of you as lumber dealers don't sell gypsum anymore because it's going through the drywall houses or the insulation houses. So this is just going to give you another opportunity for additional sale onto that project and take the shaft wall liner away from the acoustical guy or the drywall supply house. These pieces right here that were on the ground in a project in Houston, these are 12-foot pieces. Each one of those weighs 240 pounds. Area separation wall again, opportunity for it in that. The next opportunity is when you have that area separation wall. When you hit the roof deck, if you don't have that 30-inch parapet going through the roof wall, let me check my time. We don't have that parapet going through the roof deck. You have to be 4 foot on either side of that roof deck, has to be fire rated. Doesn't have to have a 1-hour treatment, doesn't have to be a 2-hour treatment, it has to be fire rated. So a lot of times what you see being used on this is FRT plywood, okay? Or you'll see another option, and I'll show you in a minute, where 5/8 gyp is used on the underside of the roof trusses. So what this does for you, this is a 7/16 inch thick. So overall thickness is 7/16 of our one-sided flame block. When you compare that to a 5/8 inch FRT board, when you get those two different thicknesses meeting on the roof deck and you put a shingle down on top of it, when those shingles seal, what's going to happen? Especially with a darker shingle like a gray or weatherwood, you're going to get a shadow line. Okay? Over the course of a few years, if you don't get a hailstorm on that and get re-roofed, that shadow line is going to develop into a crack. That crack is going to be similar to a hailstorm where you don't get your roof fixed. That's why your insurance and mortgage companies are so always involved with all these hailstorms, because they don't want those cracks and water intrusion into the attic and then into the living area. So you have a uniform thickness, 7/16 flame block, 7/16 OSB or radiant barrier all the way across, uniform thickness. The other option, this is a piece of 5/8 gyp. This is the party wall, this is in the attic, this is 5/8 gyp. So he got the builder, he has on the other side of this, on the roof deck side, He has raw OSB, then he has this gyp right here. Very labor intensive, very expensive to install. We got, I don't know if you can tell what this is from far away, but this is the HVAC system, and this is a little Texas engineering. So he had to do something and raise this HVAC up, so he got the tow strap out of his back of his truck and he ran it in between those two decks, between the gypsum and the roof deck, and strapped it to his HVAC. So it poses a little bit of problem with your mechanicals as well. This is a project where we had the shaft wall, where we didn't get the shaft wall part, but here's the roof deck, and then here's the radiant barrier. Another opportunity is during a duplex or condominium where you have vertical continuity as you come off of the roof deck and into the wall itself. Like if it's on you share a common front porch, you're going to have the same type of sheathing, fire-rated sheathing, on the wall itself. So as you come off the roof deck and then down to the wall, 4 foot on the wall is going to need to be fire-rated as well. A lot of times what you're seeing being used is gyp. So we all know what happens if you put some of siding on gyp, whether it's ours or a cement product. If it doesn't hit the stud over a course of time, that weight of that siding is going to pull away from that gyp, okay? And you're going to have waves in your siding. One other thing I wanted to point to on this application right here. Recently, I was in Galveston working with one of our small lumber dealers, regional lumber dealers down there. An opportunity came up where on the island of Galveston, all the homes are built on those big piers. So on the underneath side of that pier of the home, they have a driveway. You have your cars, your boats, your toys, your lawn equipment. On the underneath side, they needed a fire-rated product, a fire-rated panel. Not a 1-hour rating, they just needed a fire-rated panel similar to this. We were able to take flame block and offer that to the code officials, and they approved that for a fire-rated product underneath that. So they're able to take the one-sided flame block, put it on the underneath side of there, and then they can paint it, okay? You can put a good exterior grade paint on it and finish it the same color as the home. So who's using flame block? In my area, we look at a couple of different instances. Student housing is huge right now, whether it's the big 5-story projects or if it's a duplex, being built. Student housing is actually absolutely blowing up, and it's not the bigger universities, okay? We currently have projects going on in my area, two projects at Oklahoma State, University of Texas, OU, LSU. It's widely accepted in the design firms. But for many of you, it's going to be to customers that are doing condos and duplexes and townhomes. So look around your areas, around some of the universities, and who are some of your customers that are building in those areas. What we're seeing is also some of the big national builders are moving towards multifamily. D.R. Horton, Lennar, Dries, they may not have a large footprint here, but in other areas they are. But you may have regional builders here that may be moving the same way. They're moving away from single-family residential, and they're moving and having a division with multifamily, whether it's duplexes, quadplexes, or actual multifamily. Another area to look at is assisted living. Assisted living areas is a huge growth area. I mean, we're not getting any younger. So there's a huge opportunity in assisted living for the party walls, the roof deck application. Talking about the sizes real quick. 4x8, 4x9, 4x10 on special order in various thicknesses, 7/16, 5/8, 3/4, 3/4 tongue and groove. So there's many areas that are out there for opportunities for flame block, okay? In summary, flame block We talked about the fire or the water resistance and how it does real well with the water in cases like that. It has what is called an exposure 1 rating for weather delays under construction. Our research and development guy out of Nashville, I asked him not too long ago, how many times, how many pieces, how many areas have you seen where we've actually had some flame block that had to be repaired or removed and replaced because of moisture? He's been with the company for around 10 years. He can remember one project in Nashville where there were a couple of pieces, and it was less than 5, that had to be replaced, okay? As opposed to FRT plywood, that once that plywood is installed, okay, if it gets wet, and their warranty states that it's not supposed to get wet, but if it does get wet, it has to dry to 15% moisture content before it's covered up. If it doesn't, then you're going to have what is commonly called excess moisture. And then what's the problem with excess moisture in a wall? So all current, one of the things here also installs like regular OSB with no special fasteners, cuts like regular OSB. All current systems are tested with ASTM 119 with no joint or penetration treatments. We offer significant value props for our assemblies. The various size and thickness, on-ground support with your customers or for you. Again, you have Jeff, you have Tony now that's covering this area, working this. In November, we opened up our second plant in Clark County, Alabama. All your product is coming out of Watkins, Minnesota. That's me. So I went by pretty quick on a lot of stuff. There may be a lot of questions. Yes? I did not. So Jeff brought up a good point, and we've talked to some of you here about not necessarily a 1-hour firewall, but another fire partition like the roof deck that we spoke about. I had a builder in Austin that needed a fire protection in his garage for his, it was a custom builder, but he also needed something that was impact resistant. So when you get a chance, go by and check that out, our samples out. It is impact resistance. So what he took our one-sided flame block, put it on the inside of his garage, okay? So he's got a fire performance product that's impact resistance, that the bicycles, the lawn equipment, and all that other stuff, when it bangs up against it, is not going to ding it up. Okay? Also, we had a same situation in an electrical box. You have a lot of these big media boxes with all these electrical circuits going into these electrical closets, if you will. These panels can weigh up to 100 pounds. So if you're installing that and you're installing it onto gypsum, you got to be real diligent about making sure you hit a stud, as opposed to with the flame block. If you're using that inside that closet, you don't have to be quite as diligent in moving making sure you hit the stud on each one of them, because again, you're nailing into wood as opposed to gypsum. So another opportunity, was talking to Jason, I think earlier, some warehouses. Okay, there's a lot of cabinet shops around here. A lot of cabinet shops, that means a lot of equipment, electrical equipment, a lot of urethane and stain, which is very volatile. So you know, you may have an opportunity with some of that, with some sheds as well. I'm going to be around for a while after our burn event. I showed you the big marketing burn event. We're going to do another burn event out here with some smaller size that's going to show you the difference between our two-sided, our one-sided, and raw OSB. Afterwards, and then after lunch, if any of you have detailed questions, I'm around. My flight doesn't leave till 7:30 out of Indianapolis. I've promised to the guys here that I would be around as long as I need to be around. And if there's some architects or engineers here, if you want to go through an AIA presentation, we can do that also.
Let me see it. If you don't mind standing kind of right here, I think I might get a better shot. Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Chris, hello. Go further to that. Hello. Hello. You just might want to get moved.
Are we going?
We're going on that one.
Good. When you do these, you're always a little nervous as a manufacturer. I hope it works. Yeah.
Don't tell corporate about this. Don't tell corporate. This never happened. We've run this through legal.
All right, so here we go. This isn't going to take very long on this one down here of the raw OSB. Yeah. Hot dogs. Anybody got a timer going? You can do it. So this one here is about to get going pretty strong. You're going to feel a lot of heat coming off of that one.
You're on the wrong side. Get right up there.
Hopefully what you're going to see is these ignition sources, now because they put so much charcoal lighter in it, it may not happen, but what you're going to probably start seeing is these two will start burning out. That's
1
what
minute.
happens. So these two should start burning out. This one's going to get going pretty good here pretty quick.
Hey, Randy, you need to get a little closer so it doesn't lose your mic.
I was just checking to see how it was going.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you can back up here a little bit if it's not picking your mic up.
Are we down?
No. Now you're good.
No, I can't see because you talk out of the
Stand up!
So I went over and I looked at those two, and you still have the ignition sources, which look like a bunch of cardboard rolled up, still burning pretty strong.
2 minutes. Time to get the hot dogs.
How long has it been going?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. So again, you look at these two or three dog houses that are burning here. This one right here with the raw OSB, probably here within the next minute or two, it's going to be very gone, and within 5 minutes, it'll be completely destroyed. These two right here are going to be pretty well intact. The ignition sources should burn out. When we do these big events, we do them at our equipment series.
Chris, time!
3 minutes.
So, one thing I wanted to point out is 1 and 2 hour assembly. One thing that you can do is flame blocks, they make different colors. So our one side of the flame block, so we were
But the good thing is she'll never have to walk. Just then you're not going to see it. Excuse me.
Isn't that something else?
We're about 6 minutes or so.